All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Everybody just wants a home. In the end, that's what everybody wants. It is the biggest part of the American dream. But just for the vast majority of the population, as we all know, it's completely unaffordable. But the narrative right now in the housing industry is changing, saying that there are more buyers than there are sellers. And I think that there's actually a reason for this. And it's a kind of a precursor to something kind of bad that's been building up for a while. But we'll get into it. So let's have a look.
Well, you know, it's interesting. This Redfin data was really encouraging that we've seen the number of sellers outpacing buyers by more than 33%. That's the largest gap since 2013, according to Redfin. If you look back a year ago, it was 6.5%. Go back just 2 years, buyers outpaced sellers by a wide margin.
Wow.
So things are changing. However, I just want to be clear, a lot of those folks who are selling, they are not so quick to lower their prices. We are seeing some indication they will, but they're sitting on those low mortgage interest rates from 5 years ago, so it's not like a huge issue for them.
See, this is one of the big issues right now. Although it seems like we're entering a buyer's market, a lot of people, especially the sellers, the reason that they're putting their homes on the market isn't because they need to sell. The reason they're putting their homes on the market is because there's about to be a housing crash. There's a lot of speculation that the value of homes across the country, but especially in certain areas, are going to be crashing 20, 30, 40%, just like we saw in the 2008 recession. Now, if that happens, yes, it's going to be a buyer's market again because the home values will be down. But if you've been sitting on your home for a while, watching the price accumulate year after year, and you think that the value of your home is going to go down 30, 40% over the next couple of years, and you've been waiting for that moment to sell, this is pretty much it. This is pretty much it before that happens, if that's the narrative that you believe in. Personally, yeah, that does make sense because a lot of people are priced out of homes, so there's going to be a lot more sellers than there are buyers, and you're just going to have to come down in price, especially when there's going to be a glut of inventory in the market. Nobody is going to be buying these homes. Even if they lowered interest rates right now, a lot of people would still be priced out of homes. You essentially need to be making $120,000 to $140,000 a year to even get approved for a lot of mortgages on normal homes. The average home cost right now in America is about $450,000. And that's just the average. And if you're in a place like we are here, right? We are in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The average cost of a home here is about $775,000. That's for the average. You're not going to find a rental around here, a 1 or 2 bedroom for less than $3,000. In fact, a lot of workers here on the island actually just live in hotels because it's cheaper to rent a hotel room out weekly than anything else. So the buying power, well, it seems to be in the buyer's favor, is actually still in the seller's favor because there's no one out there buying. No one has the ability to get these mortgages, and that's the reality.
What we do know is Redfin believes that this outpacing of sellers from buyers, that this will lower prices just by about 1% by the end of the year. So a 1% drop in prices overall.
Are there parts of the country where prices are going down?
That's a great question.
There are. In fact, look at some of those hot markets.
Where are those places?
Florida, exactly. Hurry up. Those big markets where things rose very quickly. So in Florida, places like Tampa and Miami, and you can look at some other Sunbelt places like Phoenix, Arizona, Austin, Texas. But I want to put this in perspective. Let's look at a place like Austin. The median house about 5 years ago was about $300,000. It pops up to $500,000 in a few years. Now it's down to like $400,000. So the median home price right now overall is at $438,000. Gang, that is a 45% increase in just 5 years. And along with that, mortgage rates have more than doubled. We are at mortgage rates of around 6.9% for 30-year fixed-rate mortgages. We are at about 3.2% 5 years. So to be clear, it is still very expensive to own a home.
And of course, that's the truth. It's going to be market to market. That's just what it is. If you're in a place like the middle of Ohio, you're not going to see price fluctuations to the same degree that you're going to see them in Miami. You're going to see them in Austin. They're going to be a lot more stable. Will they go up and down? Yes, because they're going to follow a national trend. But at the same time, a lot of these prices in places where the median income is still $40,000, $50,000, when the average home price is still between $250,000 to $350,000. Like I said, it just prices out the vast majority of people. So, I mean, what can you really do? If you want to buy a home, the fact is you just can't. If you're ready to move to that next step in life, right, to actually buy a home, maybe think about starting a family, that is a huge roadblock for many people in America right now. And that's one of the reasons people are just foregoing having children in the first place, because to be honest, nobody feels like they can afford them. And the reality is it's because nobody can afford them. There's been this whole strategy to get people to move into apartment blocks, it seems like, but none of these apartment blocks are even affordable, because you're still looking at between $2,000 and $3,000 for rent. And yeah, you can say, well, in my area, it's $1,200. And of course, like I said, this is going to be regionally specific. Some areas, some markets are different than others. But still, if we're talking about, we were just in Salisbury, Maryland, a place I used to live. Average median household income there is like $35,000. Now, if the average apartment there is $1,600 at an apartment complex, $1,600 to $1,800 a month, and they want 3 times that income for you to actually be able to sign a lease at these places, essentially everyone's going to be priced out. All these places do is they just collect application fees because there's a shortage of housing. If you look at a place like Delaware, if you look at a place like the Eastern Shore, there is actually a shortage of housing. Just go on Zillow and look for rentals, look for homes for sale. What you're going to see is a lot of apartment complexes that look like they're accepting applications, that look like they're accepting new tenants, and they're accepting the applications with the application fees, but they're not actually bringing anybody in. This is a scam that's been around for quite some time now, and now that there's a shortage of housing, of affordable housing, it's a pretty good strategy to scam a lot of people out of money who just want to find a home. That's really what this is all about. In the end, everyone should have a home in America. Does everyone need a single family home? No. But it should still be an option. It should still be available. And it shouldn't only be available to normal people in rural areas where the job market is just, thin. There's not much there. But it's the situation that we've got ourselves into here in America, and it's something that we all have to deal with in one way or another. And like I said, unless you're in the top 10% in this country, you do have to worry about these things. These become issues that people are voting for, think that that'll change, but nothing seems to change, whether it's Democrat or whether it's Republican. None of these things change. There's no affordable housing. And a lot of people right now are saying that, well, the immigration lowering, with people getting kicked out of this country, the cost of housing should go down. There should be more availability, for in apartments, for rents and things like that. But that's not what anyone's seeing. No one's seeing a major change like that yet. In fact, the cost of rent is just continually going up, as it always has. It's an inevitability that the rents are going to go up. It's an inevitability that the value of homes are going to go up. It is a massive bubble that this housing market is in, and eventually prices of things are just going to outpace people's ability to pay. And that's what we're coming to. That is what America is right now in a nutshell, and that is what the Western world is in a nutshell right now. This is a problem that goes far beyond America. This is something that's happening all over Europe as well, and Canada, I hear. And I also hear that in Australia, it's especially bad trying to get housing out there. It forces people who should be into kind of the family years of their life to be living with multiple roommates, because it's the only way to have a house. The kid's crying. He is a sweetheart, though. But like I said, the market is in a funny place right now because it does appear to be a buyer's market. There's more buyers out there right now, and that's because there's a bit of a rumor of a dip in rates happening right now. And if you know anything about buying a home, it takes a while for those loans to actually get approved. So maybe by the end of that, people will be able to maybe get in at a lower rate before the value of homes shoots back up again. It's a lot of buyers or sellers are in a bit of a gambit right now, and they're putting all their cards in. And while it is the right move for some people, maybe a lot of people, the fact is what we're looking at, if the housing market does crash, a lot of sellers might out of necessity have to push in and go underwater on a lot of their loans. They won't be able to pay them off. And eventually the rebound, of course, on the back end of that is home values surpassing where they're at right now and jumping again, locking out generations of people, huge swaths of America, 95% of America out of actually being able to buy homes again. And that's the real situation. So, we can talk about this with a smile and say that, hey, it's a good buying opportunity. But everyone has to play the market with where it's at right now and kind of what position they're in. So it is what it is. But hey, if you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. Thank you for your support as always. Think about becoming a member. Looks like the weather might be turning into a good one because it has been raining all day and we want to get outside. But again, thank everyone for stopping by, and we hope you have a good one.